I'm Farhan Dalla, transformational trainer, and welcome to Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast, an invitation to take the journey towards your deepest self. It is my intention to inspire you to connect, move, and meditate. We'll tap in, tune in, and dive in, and together learn and reflect from authentic, real, and transformative conversations. Let's get started. Welcome back. Today, we are talking rituals and grief relief, ways to honor our departed loved ones with my guest, Rishma Gawani. Rishma Gawani is a communications and media professional. She's the author of the kids' book, Sushi and Samosas. Rishma has participated in numerous podcasts in the past year advocating for grief literacy. She's a proud mother of two, a proud wife of Ali, her greatest honor or title. And like myself, she spent the last year finding creative and loving ways to continue Ali's legacy. And we're going to dive into all of this shortly. But before we begin, I'd like to first acknowledge that Rishma and I have both a personal and professional connection. The personal being that we know each other from our Ismaili Muslim community. We went to the same mosque or Jamaat Khana growing up and have known each other since childhood. Professionally, Rishma had a significant role on my career. Rishma, because of you, doors opened up for me to be on television multiple times, including being a guest on the show, The Chat Room, which was my first ever TV appearance. It was my first time as a Canadian Reebok master trainer in media. And then you also had me on the show Balance on the Canadian Television Network. And I believe I did 5 episodes on there as guest fitness expert. And this was huge for me for many reasons. There was absolutely no representation for South Asians in the fitness industry, including fitness on TV at the onset of my career. And together we broke that barrier and opened the doorway of possibility for myself and other South Asians. So I sincerely, again, thank you for that opportunity. And then I was fortunate to be cast on a TV show called In Shape with Sharon Mann, which ran for 7 seasons. But Rishma, it all started because of you. And again, I am eternally grateful for that.
Wow, what a great summary. Well, I'd forgotten all of that, and it's wonderful to hear that I had an impact and started your journey out in the media space, which I think you thrive in and are great in. And I am really honored that I got to play such a great role in that.
Yeah, and I never forgot. And I never will. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And today, what has brought us here together on my podcast is the topic of grief. We have both very recently experienced the transitioning of a very close loved one, mine being my mom, and in your case, your husband, Ali. I also want to mention that today is Ali's birthday. And Rishma, I am grateful that you agreed to speak today as a way to honor him and his life, even though today is obviously difficult for you and your family. But I want you to know that my listeners and I are holding space for you and your family and sending you lots of love your way. Rishma and I want to emphasize that we want to focus our discussion on how our loved ones lived and live on instead of the way they died. Because we know that no one ever really dies, and rituals are ways we can honor our loved ones and the way they continue to exist in our lives. Rishma, welcome.
Thank you for having me here on such a special day.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. And I commend you for agreeing to speak today on such a significant day for you and your family. And, since we are talking rituals and today being Ali's birthday, why don't we start the conversation here? And let me begin by asking you, how are you honoring Ali's life specifically today for his birthday?
Yeah, today's a difficult one. I wasn't sure this morning if I actually would have the courage to participate in this podcast today, but I can't think of a better way to honor him. Like you and many others, all I want to do is talk about him and have him remembered and spoken about and loved and laughed at and even poked fun at and just remembered in such a positive way. And he had such a positive impact around his family and friends and larger community. So I was hesitant. So I think this is one way that I am honoring him. I am going to find other ways as well. Some of it's planned, some of it will be spontaneous. One of the things on the agenda is definitely getting a car wash. Ali's a big car enthusiast and has trusted me with one of his material prized possessions. And it's not looking so great. So that's definitely on the agenda. I think a good gift that he would really, really appreciate. He had a lot of material things. And so I think those symbolic gestures go a long way in making sure some of his stuff is taken care of well, his children obviously being at the top of that list. Later tonight, we'll be visiting one of his frequent establishments, and that's called the Owl and the Firkin, and we're going to go for wings there. We haven't been there actually since the day of his funeral, and a few of his buddies, a very small group, will join the kids and I, and hopefully share stories of their dad in an intimate setting, a very familiar setting, a spot where we used to frequent, him alone, him as a couple, him as a family, him with his best friends. And so that's something that's also on tap for later today.
I love that. And it seems like food is in general in your family is quite a way in which that you experience things together, whether it's trying new foods, celebrating Ali, birthdays and celebrations, so much so that you wrote a book on it. So I think that's great. I think sitting down for a meal is one thing, but creating an experience out of it, one that you will always look back and reflect upon, is great. I know one thing that I do is I create a place setting for my mom when I eat, where she always sat, and put a plate and a fork and knife and napkin and a glass or whatever, and just make her part of the experience, because I know that she loves food and I love to honor her that way. So I do make meal time a lot of times part of my ritual.
I love that. I love that. It's very symbolic, but beautiful, and it's tangible. It's a tangible, actionable item. I might borrow that tip from you. Haven't done that yet, but I think it's a wonderful way of honoring her.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of Ali's favorite things to eat? You mentioned wings. What else?
Oh my God, he's such a foodie. It's almost like we have to go the other way and mention the foods he didn't like, because I don't think that there's much out there. But coming from East African Indo background, those are some of his greatest foods. Some traditional dishes. Kitchro is one of them, which is a lentil dish. Barbecue style stuff, whether it's ribs or, again, when you take cubes of beef or chicken, it's called mishkaki, which is an African influenced type of meat with Indian roots. There's so much out there, but yeah, like wings was kind of his thing as well. And just reminds me of him and his passion towards it. It wasn't something the kids totally embraced, and And I remember the moment because we have a picture of it. And even though we would go to the owl, the kids typically got other things, chicken fingers and stuff like that. And I remember the one time Khalil was probably 7 or 8 years old, and he tried some honey garlic wings. And I swear there was tears in his eyes, in his dad's eyes, because it was like, yes, yes, I can pass this on to the next gen. And our beautiful, lovely daughter, Mila, it's taken her a bit longer, I would say in the last couple of years. And she's trying them out now too. But yeah, we have just such a beautiful picture of the two of them, kind of cheering with their wings. And I remember it was emotional. It was like, yes, he really is me kind of moment. And so, yeah, pizza, you name it, like, love sushi, love Greek, love Indian. There's not a lot he didn't like.
It sounds like it's a legacy of love created from a legacy of food, which I love, which is now being passed on. In my mom's case, her favorite is okra curry. So I'll make that when I'm really missing her, or if it's her birthday, or a special holiday, because that's something that she really enjoyed. And it's something that I can actually cook, because it's one thing to honor them with the foods they love. It's another to be able to cook it. But I do want to say, like, when I am cooking now and I'm in the kitchen, I make her part of that experience for me, because she is such a great cook that I can communicate with her that way when I am cooking. And, I'll hear her guide me, like, okay, add a little bit more water, or, just a bit more salt, or turn the temperature down, or you're going to burn it. Like, it literally feels like she's part of the whole culinary experience when we're cooking. And it's a way in which that we connect and communicate. And so I feel like she's supporting me in the kitchen in many ways.
That's wonderful. I don't feel that support there.
Did Ollie cook, or did he just eat?
He was so helpful and could do a mean job barbecuing, which I was so scared and terrified of doing, and I've embraced it, and I can just make a decent steak now. Make some really good chicken as well, and that in the last year was like, something I'm very proud of that I was able to do, along with winter tire changing, things I'd never been responsible for. So that I can hear him. I can hear him about cooking meat longer. He was always very paranoid about pink chicken, intended to overcook things. So he's in my head there. He's definitely in my head when I'm driving. That's where he visits me the most, all the time. In fact, he was a very reliable driver. I don't think he ever got a ticket, ever was in an accident. Very, very responsible on the road. I, on the other hand, do not have the same good fortune as him, or the tangible skills. And so he visits me there. But back to the food. Yeah, there are a few recipes that I actually want to get from his family, my mother too. And I'm getting better in the kitchen. And so that's something I do want to honor him with, certain foods, because I think, like a lot of cultures, families center themselves around food, and food is actually love, equals love.
Mm-hmm. When I think of all the love that went into every meal my mom prepared, it's something that I think of now, because I use some of the utensils that she used, like the ladles and spoons and whatnot, when I'm stirring, and I visualize and imagine how many meals were prepared with those spoons and ladles and saucepans, and the amount of love that went into it. And so I consciously try and put love into everything that I'm cooking now to continue that, because I think it makes a big difference in the experience of having a meal that's been prepared with so much love, as I'm sure you have as well.
There's something quite symbolic, but also, again, I'm all about tangible acts, right? Actionable acts. And even just during the act of it, like, you're very focused, right? Like, it's hard to do that and be immersed in something else, maybe some background noise or music. But really, in order to have your dishes come out, you have to concentrate, you have to do well in it and not multitask. And so I think there's just something quite beautiful if, the listeners who are listening to this podcast can use that imagery of stirring a pot. Like, it's almost like meditational, or so intentional that you could remember your loved one that way. It's very, very beautiful.
I love that. And so what other rituals have you created around special occasions like holidays? We have lots of holidays. Did you carry on some traditions, create some new ones? What are some rituals you've created around honoring Ali and his life during those times?
I think there's been quite a lot, and it's, I like to call them acts of love. And so I'll mention a few of them, and actually all of them, if we get to it. Back to the car, because it was something that was on his bucket list. It's an electric car, and really wanted to honor him by it, because every time I sit in there, I think of him and his passion for technology. We were early adopters and had a hybrid car in 2008. And he was always on the cusp of what was new and technology and being environmentally conscious. I'm not sure if he would have done it in the living, but I did get a personalized license plate for him, because I just thought it was a good way to honor him, and for people to be driving by, strangers and maybe people who know us, to also think of him. It's a play on words. It's called For Ali, but the spelling is FORE, which is a term in golf, and he was a huge golfer. So it's For Ali. It could also mean the four of us. There's four of us in the family. It could mean the generic FOR. So there's a lot of different meanings and interpretations, and I like that. I like that it's a conversation starter for people in the car to argue about what it says. We've had neighbors who think it's For really. So, I mean, it's what you see, but it's not so obvious. And I hope not so cheesy. And so that was one way that I was able to honor him. At his funeral, got some masks done during COVID. Obviously, we were required to wear them, and they're personalized with his name, with a little heart. And they're actually the comfiest masks ever. And everyone wore the same one. I gave out one of his ties. He was also a very big into tie collector. So each male had a different tie of his to wear and then keep. And there's still a lot. He was very passionate about that. And when we, a year ago, rewind back when we did a celebration of life for him, we put together a tribute video. Our daughter, actually, at the savvy age of 10, was able to pull that together with a lot of images and video. There's some audio of him as well. And so that was another legacy piece that we were able to pull together. And it's sort of eternal. Like, you can always refer back to it. It was very therapeutic putting that together. It's harder now to watch it. At the time, it was more of a project. So we kind of became immersed in the sequencing and making sure that, people were equally represented, and the photos and the videos matched to the music. So doing it was, we were really immersed in it. And now watching it not so regularly, I still absolutely adore it. I think it's perfect, and we'll treasure it forever. Something for our kids to also refer to. It's up on YouTube as a private link. We at the Princess Margaret Hospital, which was the hospital he frequented, they had something, and I think they still have it. It's called Locks of Love, and where you buy an individual lock and you can personalize it. The money goes towards the foundation in the hospital. And they have that on display downtown in front of the hospital on Murray Street. It's in the shape of a heart, along with like different love locks. So think of it as something that you would see at the Distillery District or in places like Paris. So that's also locked in with his name. We recently went to visit it, couldn't find it at first, was a little nervous. It was like, where is he? Where is he? and was able to find him, and that was a triumphant moment. And speaking of the Princess Margaret Hospital, we recently participated in their spring lottery campaign. So Ali's story is profiled on video and in print in all of those brochures that end up in people's houses, I think across Canada, to participate in the lottery. His story is profiled. And so hopefully people are motivated by hearing about his story and our story to give a little, give a lot, whatever they can. So that's another concrete example of something that I did in his honor, continuing his legacy, continuing to tell his story and remembering him in all his glory and light and what his journey was about and what he represented and how he wants to be remembered, which was a celebration of a full life. That's what he wanted. That's what he did. And that's what he achieved. Albeit it was shorter, it was a full and rich life.
And part of that full and richness was having you and your kids as being part of it. And I love the different ways that you as a family have honored and continued his legacy, whether it's through contributions to the foundations, sharing your story, all the podcasts that you've done, cleaning and washing his car, getting together with friends on celebratory days like his birthday, like today. But what about day to day? What does your day look like in a way in which incorporates him as part of your lives?
Every morning, I light a candle. And that is an everyday ritual. Somewhere around mid-morning, I blow it out. And then again, it's lit in the evening time. That wasn't a daily occurrence. It was sort of once in a while. That has become habitual. In terms of daily rituals and remembrance, I think, he's thought of and prayed for and remembered every day, not just by us, but by the larger circle of family and friends that we are lucky to be blessed with. There's been a lot of special occasion stuff. And I think because the frequency of that, like just the number of podcasts alone that have been centered around him and grief have been so frequent, and posting about his life and finding different fellow grievers in the social media world, using social media for good and remembrance. That's been a daily ritual as well, finding different quotes, finding different fellowship in grief. I think that's another daily remembrance. I think for the first, I would say 6-7 months, I was really committed to going to his grave every single day. That's slowed down. I haven't visited today, but hopefully I will with the kids. And I used to take a daily rose and just feel like I was continuing to take care of him and his area and his neighbors and protect it. And as a caregiver, that was something I did. So it was hard to just drop doing that. But I think back to your question about the daily, I think the daily is mostly engrossed in making sure that his children are taken care of and his children's needs are taken care of. So that is a priority item, that the house is maintained. That is a priority item for him. He was a neat freak, also made sure that things were done on time. The recycling was taken out, the humidifiers and the different maintenance things that were done, they were always done on time. We never slipped. So those are all sort of, in a weird way, acts of remembrance, but daily things that I do to impress him and also honor him and know that he's entrusted me with those jobs. So I take them very, very seriously, and I'm not going to slack on them because I have to represent him. And that's where he plays a big part of my daily life.
And just by taking on his roles as well, even though you're doing them, it sounds like you're doing them in his memory, which is great.
We
I,
had
Mhm.
he he used to be funny because he was so on top of things and such a responsible adult. And he was the first one to have the recycling in the green bin out the night before. And so I'm the first one to have it out. It's night before. It's really not necessary, but it's something that I do because it's something he would have done, and I want to do it as well as he did.
And it sounds like you're doing a great job. I I lit an incense stick for our loved ones before we started, and so my space right now is filled with that scent, and that's something Mom and I did at prayer time every evening, and so I continue to do that as well. And for me, when I start my day, my mom and I have a very close relationship, and hugging and kissing was part of our daily rituals, and I miss that tremendously. So I start my day by kissing her picture, and I can very distinctly remember what her cheek tasted like to me, the softness of her skin, because she had the most incredibly soft skin. And when she kissed you, it was just the most tender feeling, and you could just melt. And I miss that. So, though it's not the same, I do have, at least in my cellular memory and DNA, that experience, but I stay in the practice of that. So I start my day with that. And at the end of my day, I kiss her bedroom door goodnight. We always kissed each other goodnight, and I always got 3 kisses. And so I pass her bedroom door as I enter mine, and I stop and I just kiss the door as a way of saying goodnight. I also honor her through food in other ways. Her favorite coffee is French vanilla at Tim Hortons. And although I personally find it sweet, I do on special occasion will grab a French vanilla, but I will half the sweetness with mixing it with coffee, so I don't get like a huge sugar rush. But man, she has like this sweet tooth that she just loves. So I at least honor her with coffee. I also honor her with, like I said, setting a place setting during meal times, especially during celebrations. And when I have friends over, when we get together at the table, or with family, I set a place setting for her, so she's still part of our meal. And every night, my mom used to take out a tasbih or prayer for all our departed loved ones. And so that's a tradition that I started while she was still in physical form, and have continued now every night at bedtime, and of course, including her in it. And so that's my nightly ritual. Mom and I used to watch TV together all the time, and we used to love watching HGTV or some reality shows that involved fashion and a couple of like sitcoms and whatnot. And we always shared a blanket when we sat on the couch. So I would cover her legs and mine, and we would sit close together, often holding hands. And so I miss that physical contact and that touch. But oftentimes, what I'll do is I'll still cover myself with just half the blanket and imagine her sitting next to me while I'm still watching TV, and imagine I'm covering her legs with the other half of the blanket. And so I miss those times, I miss those moments. But I know that our relationship continues. As I said, love never dies. And what's interesting is that I believe that a bond of love can continue to grow. And so I I love her more now than I ever have. And that bond has continued to be nurtured through the rituals that, I've created, and making her part of my life. And so I've noticed that feeling and that depth, though I didn't even know it was possible, but to love her more now than I ever have in my entire life. And, the rituals that Rishma and I are talking about are unique for us and our families and with our loved ones, but there's no right or wrong way, right, Rishma, to create a ritual. It's whatever is significant for you that makes you feel good about your relationship. It's a way in which you can continue, as I said, to nurture the bond that you have with them. A bond of love can never be severed. It can never die. It can only grow. And there's very little that actually separates us, between us and our loved ones on the other side. Very little. And so there's no reason why, when a person transitions, that relationship ends, but it can actually continue. It's just different.
So beautiful. So beautiful. So many points I wanted to jump off on. And I agree completely with you. And it's just so beautiful. And I feel exactly the same way. My love is greater. He was my great love, but it's greater now. And I didn't think it could be fuller. Like my heart is full. It's breaking. It's full at the same time, but it continues to like blossom. It's amazing. It's amazing that you brought up Tim Hortons, because I too shared a medium steep tea with 1 sugar and 2 creams with him. And there was something, we shared it. And sometimes we would double cup. They're not doing that anymore. And sometimes we would drink from the same cup. And that was our standard drink. So we economically, it made some more sense to get a large and split it. So that's what we did. And we shared, and I still get that drink. Not as often, but I do. And again, his love of sweets, like you described with your mom, there's tons of that. Went to the keg with his family on the weekend, and his brother brought a cake. There'll be another cake on this weekend with my family. And so, yeah, there's so many similarities. I hope that they're bonding over their love for Tim's and their love for sweets and their love for their beloved that they've left behind. It's super beautiful. And even the TV, like he was my TV buddy. In fact, he had such great taste. And sometimes there's so many shows that he exposed me to that I wasn't willing or thought that's not my genre. We did have some shows that we didn't share, but a lot of them we did. And it was blanket time. And that's when I miss him the most. In the evenings, I feel very, very vulnerable and lonely. And the PVR is still set. His Game of Thrones are there. He was religious about rewatching them because there's so much deep meaning. And his Curb Your Enthusiasm just started again. And so PVR picked it up. I don't have the heart to delete them. Mm-hmm. And every now and then when I find a good one, it's sharing it with him. And he's like, yes, you found something good. Like Selling Sunset, which was one of his shows, is back on again. Not one of mine, but he was a big HGTV guy. It's really hard because it's their thing, but it's beautiful the way that you described, the way that you continue and honor that tradition through tea, through TV, through prayer. I know we've discussed this before, but going to our congregational prayer hall called Jamaat Khana, which is our mosque, is very, very therapeutic. COVID restrictions have changed a lot of it. Again, I was really, really hardcore. I would say for the first few months, COVID or no COVID, I was in there. And I'm hoping to re-establish that in the new year. I feel like I'm missing it. And it's a deeper type of connection. It's when I'm sitting, I feel very, very vulnerable and the tears sort of flow easily. And when I participate in a congregational prayer, if I'm leading it, I just know how proud he is because he loved my voice and loved that I participated in that stuff. And so that's another way of honoring him. If whenever I get the opportunity, it's for him.
I love that. And you did mention also fundraising for Princess Margaret Hospital, a place where Ali frequented regularly. And one of the many organizations that Mom liked to donate to financially was the Aga Khan Foundation, which whose mission is to end global poverty and world hunger. And so I will have links to both those organizations in the notes section of this podcast. If anyone wishes to contribute in honor of either Ali or my mom or anyone else in your family, please feel free to do so. And we know that those two organizations do incredible work, and we both support them wholeheartedly. And we would be so honored if you supported us as well.
Ditto. I echo that, and appreciate that you will have those links up. And I know this is just audio, but Farhan and I are talking over Zoom with our videos up so that we can see each other for visual cues. And behind him is the most beautiful frames. They're pictures of his mother. I know he's shared them on social before, but the border of the picture is some of her saris. She was very fashionable and passionate about her saris, and they just look so beautiful. And that's a project hopefully you and I have talked about, and I want to be able to do something similar with maybe a shirt and tie.
Sure, absolutely.
With a shadow box, or something. I think it would just look tremendous on the staircase or somewhere in a central spot in the house. So there's so many creative ways that, you can honor your loved one, and hopefully just some of the stuff that we've mentioned in this podcast sparks, some ideas for you and listeners. If you guys, need some help along the way, we're full of good ideas. Another thing that just struck me is just, reigniting our friendship and the friendships that I have made with people who have suffered loss. I have, a couple of groups now, one WhatsApp group with women who all lost their husband in the last year. There's 5 of us in the group. That's a daily thing. We send each other stuff. We're there for each other. Sometimes it goes silent, and it's a newfound group, but it's that friendships evolve, and some people don't, stay with you for certain chapters of your life, and some people come in. And so there's been unexpected club memberships. It's not that we wanted to be part of these clubs, but now that we're there, it's a place that we can find mutual support.
That's great. And I'm glad you brought up the portraits, because what I want to say about that is I do not claim to have been any form of artist prior to doing this. And to tackle on this project really required me to step into the courage that I could do this. And the reason why I say this is that don't be afraid to be creative in the way in which you come up with ideas to honor your loved ones. I'm not going to lie, it was a bit scary cutting my mom's dresses and gluing them onto mats and whatnot. And it was quite tricky because I had to position the mats inside the dress and figure out how to lay the fabric and whatnot. And this is something I've never done before. And I spoke to 3 different framers to try to get instructions, and I got 3 different set of instructions, and I kind of merged all of the instructions that I got. But that process was another way in which I really felt a deep connection to my mom, because as I was doing it, I went into meditation and prayer and felt her guiding my hand as I was cutting the fabric, which again was quite scary, I won't lie. But what came out of it is the most beautiful way that I could capture her spirit. It's changed my entire space that I live in. It's brought in her fullness in so many ways, especially like Rishma mentioned, her stylishness, because she just loved getting dressed up for special occasions, dressed up for celebrations, be it at our Jamaat Khana or for weddings. And she always was extremely particular about what she wore and how she matched it, from her jewelry to her purses and whatnot. So I took on the task of bringing that and creating art with it in my home. But one thing I also did with her purse is I wrote down all my dreams and wishes, and I wrote them in cue cards, and I put them in her purse, and I placed her purse by my nightstand. And so I sleep with that next to me. And when I wake up and go to bed, or anytime I pass my nightstands, it's a reminder that she has her blessing in her hand on my dreams and my wishes. And I couldn't have asked for anything more, because I know that if she was here in physical form, she would bless everything that I do. And so now I feel like whatever dream or wish that I have, whatever my future looks like, her hand is always going to bless it. And so I'm really grateful for that as well.
Wowzers. Like, it's just so beautiful. And it's very inspiring, because I'm like, oh, okay. I know women have a lot more stuff. But like, he has all these wallets, or he has, like, there's something like that would be really nice for the children. And every time you say something, I remember something else. Another daily thing is I wear his wedding ring every single day around my neck. It's not my wedding ring, but it's something that we had purchased before his passing, and it's a ring. You could wear it as in a ring, or over as a necklace, and it's always in my heart. And then it's coupled with his wedding ring. I also wear prayer beads. I got some personalized with his initial, and a prayer bead specifically that he was wearing for the last several years. So there's so many things. I mean, you use really your creative juices, and it sounds like it was quite the project. But even picking up like an initialed mug from Indigo, like, you can outsource these things. You can buy that. I took tea lights, cheap little tea lights that I got, dollar store, Amazon kind of, and I just took a Sharpie, and I knew that the investment was so little that if I screwed it up, it wouldn't be a big deal. And when I just started like doodling, and one of them would have his initials, another one would say a heart, and I gave them out to different people, and I also have a bunch. And so those are battery operated tea lights, and, cheap and cheerful. There's, more extensive projects like you've done, but I just think there's so many different things that you can do. Again, with Ali being an avid golfer, took golf balls, again, took a Sharpie and put his initial at his grave. His nameplate is surrounded with golf balls, like all around it. It was just something to honor him. And that's, sort of like the flowers kind of die and weather resistant are not weather resistant, but the golf balls are all year round, and kind of just dug them into the ground. So the border of his plate has the golf balls. So there's so many little things and big things that I think we've been doing. I know others do it, and hopefully, our listeners will do it. One of the grief groups we were in did a butterfly release this September. It's usually an event in person where everyone who is bereaved can release their butterflies all together. In this case, they were dropped off, and we were able to release them. That's a really beautiful thing if you're able to take advantage of, one of those programs. But I think this conversation is just so helpful to me, helpful to you, I know, and helpful Absolutely. To hopefully people who are listening, to help inspire them to keep their loved ones alive. They're alive. They're alive in so many ways. They're just not here physically, which is very, very difficult. Not going to lie or mask that and say all of these things. Just, they do make it easier in one way, or they make you remember them, but overall you're still grieving. And so they're acts of remembrance, they're acts of love, they're acts of grief, and grief essentially equals love.
Mm. And one last thing I want to share is something that was actually gifted to me, which was the most incredible gift I think I've ever received. But a really good friend of mine, her name is Galit, and she lives in Florida, and she's a very close friend of mine. Her and her 3 daughters had a beautiful blanket made for me, and it was covered with pictures of me and my mom. and all these pictures from, the two of us together in every picture, and it just covers the entire blanket. And in the middle it says, "I'm everything I am because you loved me," which is the song that I used for a video actually that I made as well for my mom during our celebration of life and for Mother's Day, which was about her life. And that song is pretty significant for me because of those times and moments. But she had that inscribed in the blanket, and so I sleep with that every night. And in the card that she gave to me with the blanket, it said, "Now you can sleep every night with your mother's love wrapped all around you." And I thought that was just an incredibly beautiful gesture, and I truly treasure that gift. And it lays on my bed all day, and then when I go to sleep, I just cover myself up with that. And it's just another reminder as well that my mother's love is always around me. So just
best gift ever. Like,
yep.
That is phenomenal. And the idea of pictures too, like we live in a digital age. Like, I mean, that is an extreme gesture of love and kindness, and like, yes, the best gift. But going back to small, like, I mean, I haven't totally done this too, is like print your pictures, go to Shoppers, go to Staples, print your pictures, put them up in frames that already, exist, have them handy, put them up on your fridge. Do something like that for
Create
someone
a tribute wall, or
like just the idea of physical pictures makes them physically maybe more present because we're not just attached to a screen. Something that I posted very recently got a very poignant response by someone who writes very beautifully that I think applies very much equally to you and I. And this is a university friend, Patricia, and what she was responding to was a reel I made, and it was just with the song and of the story that's been shared on the Princess Margaret site. And she says, "Oh, Rishma, I'm a puddle. The way you honor Ali is a gift to all of us, celebrating his joy and his passion for life. And through it all, the deep ache of missing his physical presence, which radiates larger than life itself," which in turn made me a puddle. And I said, all I can do is honor him and keep him alive through his legacy and contribution of providing so much goodness to the world.
And that you are doing beautifully, my friend, in every way. And this conversation has truly highlighted all of that. And I know that both Ali and my mom are super proud of us and continue to love us and are deeply appreciative of every act of love that we have made for them. As we wrap up, I also want to quickly mention that your book, Sushi and Samosa, is available on Amazon, and I will put the link for that in the notes section as well. Please check out this book. It's beautifully written by a beautiful person, and I know that the message there will transform your eating experience with your family. Rishma, I want to thank you for your openness and vulnerability in sharing your grief journey with us today. I want to thank you for being my guest, my friend, and I am sincerely grateful for how our paths have crossed, and especially now, in a way in which that we could be there for each other to support one another in one of the most challenging times of our lives. I am eternally grateful for every text, every message, every Facebook message, every thought, every act of love that you have directed towards myself and my mom. And on behalf of both of us, we thank you greatly.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy I did do it today. I told you I had some trepidation there and started out really, really, really emotional. And then you got me all excited and happy again. And I know that I'm ending with happier tears than I started with sadder tears. So I thank you for being part of my journey and our newfound
relationship. People come and go in your lives. This is a chapter that we are sharing, and I'm very, very grateful, and continue to keep you and your mother close in my thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Farhan Dhalla. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode of Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast. I hope today's conversation has elevated you in some way and inspired you to connect, move, and meditate. I'd really appreciate your support by following and rating this podcast. Come back soon and join me for another transformative conversation.